It is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. If you can't convince them, confuse them. Harry S. Truman was the 33rd President of the United States, serving from 1945 to 1953. America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. There is nothing new in the world, except the history you do not know. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. I never did give anybody hell. I just told the truth, and they thought it was hell. The reward of suffering is experience. It's a recession when your neighbor loses his job, it's a depression when you lose yours. Actions are the seed of fate, deeds grow into destiny. My father was not a failure. After all, he was the father of a president of the United States. When you have an efficient government, you have a dictatorship. I have found the best way to give advice to your children is to find out what they want, and then advise them to do it. A pessimist is one who makes difficulties of his opportunities, and an optimist is one who makes opportunities of his difficulties. A leader in the Democratic Party is a boss, in the Republican Party, he is a leader. The United Nations is designed to make possible lasting freedom and independence for all its members. When even one American, who has done nothing wrong, is forced by fear to shut his mind and close his mouth, then all Americans are in peril. The only things worth learning are the things you learn after you know it all. Always be sincere, even if you don't mean it. It's plain hokum. If you can't convince them, confuse them. It's an old political trick. But this time it won't work. The atom bomb was no great decision. It was merely another powerful weapon in the arsenal of righteousness. Whenever you put a man on the Supreme Court, he ceases to be your friend. Carry the battle to them. Don't let them bring it to you. Put them on the defensive, and don't ever apologize for anything. Being too good is apt to be uninteresting. A president cannot always be popular. If I hadn't been president of the United States, I probably would have ended up a piano player in a bawdy house. I would rather have peace in the world than be president. The buck stops here. Any man who has had the job I've had and didn't have a sense of humor wouldn't still be here. All the president is a glorified public relations man who spends his time flattering, kissing, and kicking people to get them to do what they are supposed to do anyway. Upon books, the collective education of the race depends. They are the sole instruments of registering, perpetuating, and transmitting thought. Art is parasitic on life, just as criticism is parasitic on art. A bureaucrat is a Democrat who holds some office that a Republican wants. A politician is a man who understands government. A statesman is a politician who's been dead for 15 years. Whenever a fellow tells me he's bipartisan, I know he's going to vote against me. All my life, whenever it comes time to make a decision, I make it, and forget about it. The best way to give advice to your children is to find out what they want, and then advise them to do it. Intense feeling too often obscures the truth. The White House is the finest prison in the world. Experience has shown how deeply the seeds of war are planted by economic rivalry and social injustice. Washington is a very easy city for you to forget where you came from and why you got there in the first place. If I'd known how much packing I'd have to do, I'd have run again. A president needs political understanding to run the government, but he may be elected without it. Study men, not historians. This administration is going to be cussed and discussed for years to come. Well, I wouldn't say that. I was in the great class, but I had a great time while I was trying to be great. Most of the problems a president has to face have their roots in the past. The president is always abused. If he isn't doing anything. In my opinion, 8 years as president is enough, and sometimes too much for any man to serve in that capacity. It sure is hell to be president.